You clicked for tactics, not tears. Good, because today we dissect why civilians became the terrain in Ukraine's urban fights. Conventional forces, precision munitions, dense neighborhoods, that formula turns every block into a kill box.
Concerns are growing this morning as more civilians are getting caught in the crossfire of this conflict. Russia has consistently denied targeting civilians, but even here in Lviv, in the west, a city farther away from the front lines of violence, the people are on edge.
It was a weekend of escalating violence across Ukraine with intense missile fire and attempts to evacuate civilians that turned deadly.
I have to warn you, some of the video you're about to see is quite graphic.
A weekend of deadly violence across Ukraine.
We'll map the tactical failure of defending inside cities, how line-of-sight traps, drone-fed targeting, and rubble channels force fire onto non-combatants. Then we'll ask the hard question: what doctrine could have reduced the civilian toll without handing over the ground? Stay, this is cold analysis, not sentiment. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
After earlier ceasefire attempts failed, uncertainty growing by the minute, even in cities like Lviv, now a destination for so many fleeing the conflict zone. Say at least 8 civilians were killed Sunday, including in this attack, a family including 2 children now dead. Efforts to escape nearly impossible for civilians in cities like Irpin and Mariupol this weekend.
Are you afraid to stay here?
Of course.
President Zelensky calling on world leaders to help, saying sanctions are not enough, and amplifying his push for a no-fly zone over his country.
You expected tank lines on open fields. Instead, the fight slammed into apartment blocks, clinics, and schools. Why? Because city ground carries power you can't buy with armor. A city is more than streets. It's rail chokes, bridgeheads, fuel points, command rooms, and the flag you show the world. Hold it, and you hold narrative, logistics, and morale. Lose it, and the map shifts in minds and media before it shifts on paper. But then dense neighborhoods turn every wall into a blind. Windows become hides for optics and rifles. Stairwells stitch firing angles. Basements and sewers give defenders reach under your guns. Short sightlines kill standoff. Your range edge evaporates. Civilians complicate every move. Evacuations break on curfews, fuel, age, fear. Buses don't run on time under shelling. People stay for pets, parents, paychecks. Defenders move with that flow, no uniform needed, and your sensors see a crowd, not a squad.
Our journey to Ukraine started in Poland. As we approach the Ukrainian border, a glimpse of the growing humanitarian crisis. A small fraction of the 1.5 million people who have fled their home country so far. A move the Secretary of State warns could put NATO forces in direct conflict with Russia.
What we're trying to do is end this war in Ukraine, not start a larger one.
Quite a crunch here on this side. This is inbound to Poland. All the relief agencies have set up, and we see families who are just making their way across now.
Blast does ugly math in density. Shock waves bounce. Shards multiply. One hit knocks out power, then pumps, then heat. Now kitchens go dark and the pharmacy fridge fails. So artillery smothers one gun with area fire. A loitering drone hunts a radio ping near a housing block. Counter-battery cues rounds into mixed-use squares. The core failure isn't cruelty, it's physics. If civilians become the map, modern weapons redraw the legend and raise the cost. You were told precision saves lives. In dense cities, it often concentrates damage instead. The sensor-to-shooter chain looks clean on a slide, ISR drones scan, counter-battery radars track arcs, SIGINT sniffs for radios, and guided rounds close the loop. On the street, that promise collides with clutter. Precision still needs a clean read. Urban canyons bend blast, mask heat, and bury signals in a sea of routers and phones. You get a dot, not a picture. The net gets better, the fire cycle gets faster, and rounds land while civilians still fill hallways, stairwells, and courtyards. Hit the right window and still hurt the wrong people. Shared walls move shock. Gas lines run vertical. Stairwells act like chimneys. One impact crawls across floors and families. Circular errors shrink, but kill radii don't, and structure loss adds its own weight. Rubble turns into secondary fragments and slows rescue by hours, sometimes days. You see the patterns repeat. A loitering munition kills a radio relay 2 floors below sleeping families. A laser-guided shell drops a sniper and lights the stairwell. A counter-battery strike arrives minutes after a mortar, into a courtyard where civilians queued earlier. Attackers sight lawful targets. Defenders hug civilians to dilute strikes. Timelines compress. Non-combatants stay in the blast loop. Precision accelerates harm into smaller rooms. So what breaks that cycle without ceding the war? Doctrine, not promises. If cities pull fire like magnets, can a defender still shield civilians and fight? Yes, but only with hard doctrine, not wishful thinking. Start outside the belt. Build depth beyond the city limits with decoy-rich outer rings, controlled denial, and strict emissions rules. You trade early ground to keep neighborhoods alive. That's the deal. Elastic defense comes first. Seed peri-urban kill zones with mines, wire, culverts, and anti-armor teams. Delay, bleed, then fall back before tubes and rockets flatten the core. You win hours, sometimes days. Civilians gain time to move. Next, split civilian life from the battle rhythm. Pre-plan evacuation corridors tied to defensive phases. Schedule power downs. Stock water bladders and heat alternatives. Use clear public comms to blunt panic and rumor. Then kill the signal. Ban radios in residential blocks. Shift command posts into hardened, empty shells. Run fiber where you can. Push talkers and emitters to decoy farms that soak up strikes. Route precision, don't just call it. Limit heavy guns to pre-cleared lanes and hours. Mark no fire blocks. Fire counter-battery from offset sites beyond housing clusters. Finally, feed their sensors lies. Inflatable armor, spoofed RF beacons, thermal dummies, false roadblocks that draw guided fire into empty grids. Do this right, and you hold the city while the edges burn. Comment your choice below, and subscribe if you want the mindset that wins. The failure starts with a bad premise. Civilians are not cover or clutter. They are the constraint that should shape every plan. Redesign the battle space so people exit fast and munitions land on emptiness, outer belts that soak fire, clean lanes that keep guns away from homes, and comms rules that starve sensors. What would you do to keep a city alive under fire? Comment how you'd structure a defense, and subscribe to join a community that studies real tactics, not slogans. Cities don't just host wars, they shape them. The side that reshapes the city's role saves lives, and gains leverage.